This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Today, the Argentine Senate passes Milei's key reforms. Biden signs a 10-year security pact with Zelenskyy, and Nigel Farage's Reform Party overtakes the Tories. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Friday the 14th of June 2024. In the early hours of Thursday morning, Argentina's Senate finally passed two controversial economic reform bills passed by President Javier Milei as part of his wider project to fix Argentina's broken economy. The first bill includes 238 separate articles and will, amongst other things, privatise several state-owned firms, create incentives for foreign investment, and delegate more emergency powers to Milei himself, allowing him to rule by decree. When it was first introduced to Congress a few months ago, it was dubbed the Omnibus Bill because of its size and scope, but it was watered down earlier this year to help it get through the House of Representatives, and has now been disparagingly nicknamed the Minibus Bill by Milei's detractors. The second bill is basically about increasing tax revenue. While tax rises might not sound very on brand for Milei, a self-declared anarcho-capitalist who spends most of his time railing against the evils of the state, the Argentinian state receives relatively little in tax revenues, in part because the previous administration actually got rid of income tax in a desperate attempt to hold on to power. While arguably the most important bit of this bill, namely the reintroduction of income tax for higher earners, was vetoed by the Senate, most of its other articles squeezed through, including a tax amnesty to get money back into the formal economy. Because both bills were further watered down by the Senate, they'll have to go back to the House of Representatives for final approval. But this shouldn't be too difficult, and their passage into law looks basically inevitable. This is fundamentally good news for Milei, who hailed the vote as a triumph and the first step towards the recovery of our greatness. Not only does it mean he's getting at least some of his reforms enacted, but perhaps as importantly, it also demonstrates to the international markets and investors that he can actually overcome legislative deadlock, which is something previous Argentinian reformers have struggled with. This is fundamentally because, despite a steep recession and the world's highest inflation rate, Milei is still remarkably popular in Argentina, which makes Congress wary of resisting his reforms. Nonetheless, it wasn't easy going. The bill's passage was preceded by over 10 hours of furious and insult-ridden debate, and on Wednesday, protesters tried to enter the Senate to prevent the bills from becoming law, sparking a fierce confrontation with police. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Mark Serjuk, then consider joining the new TLDR membership program for just $1.99. The White House has signed a 10-year defense pact with Ukraine. Announced last night at the G7 conference in Italy, President Joe Biden pledged full support for the US and its allies for Ukraine until they prevail against Russia. The security pact commits the US to help develop Ukraine's military capacity, and Zelensky's described it as the strongest agreement struck since Ukraine's independence in 1991. Biden has managed to secure commitment from 5 countries to send air defense systems to Ukraine, including Patriot missile batteries Kiev has been asking for since Russia escalated its air attacks on critical Ukrainian infrastructure. During the summit, the G7 countries also approved a new scheme to send $50 billion in loans to Ukraine, funded by sanctions and frozen Russian sovereign assets. But there's a big catch in all of this. The deal has only been signed between Kiev and the current Biden administration and won't be ratified by Congress. This means that come January, if Donald Trump steps back into the Oval Office, he could easily rip up the agreement, which has led to many analysts casting doubt on the future of this deal. As the UK's general election campaign enters its second half, Nigel Farage's Reform Party has overtaken the Conservatives in a national opinion poll for the first time. According to the YouGov poll, Reform has climbed 2 percentage points to 19%, overtaking the Tories, who remained on 18%. Labour still maintains a large lead and is polling at 37%. Reform's poll has risen since Farage, best known for his successful Brexit campaign, said he will be running in the election last week. This is a fresh blow not only to Sunak, but the entire Tory party, and attention has now turned to the future and survival of the Tories after the election. On a video posted on X, Farage has said that voting for the Tories will only be a wasted vote, and that Reform are now the real challengers to Labour.
The only wasted vote now is a Conservative vote. We are the challengers to Labour, and we're on our way.
In an interview on LBC, Farage said something new is going to emerge on the centre-right, and that the Tories may well be dead post-election. Farage did say, however, that he will be willing to lead a merged Tory Reform Party. Former Home Secretary Suella Braverman has told the Tories to embrace Farage and unite the right, but Tory ministers have ruled out a possible merger, at least for now. Over in Iran, a reformist candidate has been cleared to run in the upcoming presidential election. For context, new presidential elections were triggered by the death of hardline President Ebrahim Raisi last month. In Iranian presidential elections, all candidates on the ballot have to first be signed off by the Guardian Council, a group of 12 clerics and judges who are generally loyal to the supreme leader Ayatollah Khomeini. Now, after Raisi died, a whole load of candidates announced their intention to run, including former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. But basically everyone expected the Guardian Council to veto any interesting candidates and essentially hand the election to a hardline Khomeini loyalist in order to minimise political instability. This is why it's a bit of a shock that, last weekend, the Guardian Council announced that Masoud Pezeshkian would be one of the 6 eligible candidates. Pezeshkian, a 69-year-old surgeon and current MP, isn't a particularly well-known figure in Iran, but has previously criticised the regime's more hardline policies, and has attracted attention and support from reformists over the last few weeks. The regime were probably hoping to use Pezeshkian's candidacy to boost turnout amongst reformists without actually getting him elected. But his campaign has picked up momentum, and if he wins, it would both drastically snake up Iranian politics and re-energise the reformist camp. Today marks the start of the Euros, and one Scotland fan was given a hero's welcome as he arrived in Germany to celebrate. 20-year-old Craig Ferguson walked 1,000 miles all the way from Glasgow to Munich. Ferguson travelled solo through 6 countries to raise funds for the Scotland-based male suicide prevention charity Brothers in Arms. He managed to raise over £51,000 for charity. Talking to the crowds of Scottish fans attending the Germany vs Scotland match later tonight, Ferguson thanked them for the warm welcome, before indulging in some champagne in the Munich sun. Now, understanding exactly what has or is going to happen here can be a little tricky, requiring you to evaluate lots of information from different, often partial sources. It would be sensible then to begin improving your critical thinking skills so that you can keep sharp and better understand what's going on. And well, our sponsor Brilliant.org can help you do just that. Brilliant is the online learning platform that's designed specifically to teach you everything from maths, data analysis, programming, and AI from the ground up. You don't need a fancy degree or to have dedicated hundreds of hours to studying any of these. All you need is a device with an internet connection and a few spare minutes a day. And with your spare few minutes, you'll learn by actually doing, with Brilliant providing hands-on lessons that let you play around with concepts, a method that has been shown to be 6 times more effective than just watching lectures. What makes this even better is that this content is created by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from MIT, Caltech, Duke, Microsoft, and more. You can try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days. Just click on the link in the description. That way you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription.